Greetings, Miracle Makers. We are here with Classic Miracle number 18, and this one is about the comedian Jim Carrey. Jim Carrey grew up in extreme poverty. I don't remember all the details of why his father had trouble finding or keeping a job, but they moved from trailer courts to, other people's basements. Sometimes lived out of their car. It just was a very challenging childhood. And at one point, while they were living at an address, Jim Carrey wrote Carol Burnett a letter and said, "I'm really funny. You should support me and mentor me. Here is my address and here is my name. Please send me money and call me." Carol Burnett did not send him money or call him, but that was how big Jim Carrey dreamt, was to ask the most famous female comedian at the time for help. So he would practice his weird facial expressions, and of course he's the master of lots of things, not just funny facial expressions, but he's an extremely talented actor and comedian. That doesn't always equate to immediate success. Jim Carrey's brand of humor was so outlandish, it was so out there, that some comedy clubs loved him and some didn't. But no comedy club ever kept somebody around. You played your week and then you left, right? So he had to continually find more and more new work. So Jim was without work in 1987 for 3 months in a row. That's a long time when, you don't have any other income. You're just trying to, so he's living on the little bit of his savings. And finally it came down to an evening where he had to choose between buying dinner or putting gas in his gas tank. And he chose to use those last $13 to put gas in his gas tank. And he lived in LA at the time, so he drove up to the most beautiful neighborhood in Los Angeles, which is Beverly Hills, and he decided to drive around. And by now it's about 2 a.m. He's driving around and he said, "I'm not going to stop until I find the most beautiful home in Beverly Hills." And he found it. And he got out, and again, the extremely passionate person that he is, he said, "I'm going to sit on this curb and I'm not getting up until I believe that I live there." He understood the power of imagination. Again, the great, professional athletes, professional entertainers, the greats in the world understand the power of think it, see it, feel it, and you will experience it. So he did. He imagined that in that window was the bedroom for he and his wife, and he wasn't married at the time, were sleeping right now, and that those two windows were his kids' bedrooms, and that in that big huge garage he had a motorcycle and a boat and 2 really nice cars. And then he imagined that he was going to get his motorcycle out in the morning and he was going to ride his motorcycle to the movie set, because he was now in movies, and he was one of the best actors in Hollywood in movies. And at one point he said, "And I'm going to be paid $10 million for a movie someday." And that just so lit up his soul that he, after he could feel that he really believed he lived in this house, that this was his house, he got out his checkbook and he wrote himself a check to Jim Carrey. Now remember, it's 1987, to Jim Carrey for $10 million, lots of zeros, right? On the memo he wrote, "For services rendered." And then he ripped it out, folded it, put it in his billfold. $10 million for services rendered. 1995 was the date he put on the check. You could probably guess by now. In February of 1995, he received the first ever awarded to an actor for a film, first ever $10 million check for a movie called The Mask. Are you dreaming big enough? Later.